and now the road's higher. Whew. We got out of that scrape by letting the air out of the tires and backing out. Finally, we found Larry Jones. But we quickly learned that Larry had never driven a bus in his life. He didn't know how to start it or put it in reverse. The night Larry drove us to the rodeo we were playing, all eyes were on the new guy. Folks who travel for a living have a way of watching the one who drives them. It was dead silence, Larry remembers. I was thinking, this is my big test. I got to this one place and had to make a U-turn. I thought, God, this is it. I'm exposed. But he finished the turn and the bus broke out into applause. There is no rhyme or reason for some of the things that happen on the road. Sometimes you have to think God is behind them. One time, Sherry McCoy, my hairdresser, and I flew to Kansas City, Missouri, where Larry met us with the bus. When we reached the hotel, we discovered we had no reservations. That's when we learned that Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri have hotels with the same name. We were in the wrong Kansas City. I remember that the weather was extremely cold, icy, and snowy. We drove around a while trying to find our hotel, and finally I told Larry to stop and call for directions. He pushed the 0 button on the telephone. It froze inside and wouldn't come out. So we stayed lost. Larry ended up driving around Kansas City, Kansas for 4 hours. We were lost long enough for me to watch on the TV a videotaped movie, another 1-hour program, and the 10 o'clock news. But surely it was God's plan for me to see that news broadcast, with a feature on all of the homeless people who were freezing out in the elements. It really tore me up. Here I was in a nice customized bus with the heater running full blast, and these people were searching for shelter to save their lives. I felt guilty, but I decided to do something about it instead. So the next day, when Sherry, Renee, my niece, and I went to Walmart after my rodeo show, we picked out socks and compact cases with toothpaste, shampoo, and other stuff. I got lots of pillows and blankets, too. Now, when the girls and I were taking the stuff through the checkout lines, the cashier recognized me and asked me why I was buying so much. I told him about seeing the homeless on the news the evening before. Walmart is a family-oriented kind of place, so the cashier offered me a 10% discount on everything. Of course, I didn't ask for the discount, but by the next day, a newspaper story claimed that I had bickered over the price with the people at Walmart. I thought that was kind of tacky of the newspaper. But that hurt was overshadowed by my gratitude that God had let me be in a position to help. The Walmart folks volunteered to send the items over to the people at the rescue mission for me, since I had another show that night. I had begun to realize that it was time to get serious about my career. I needed to take more control of my performing life, and I started by getting more choosy about the places where I sang. A touring entertainer never knows what a place is like if he's never played there before. Some places have swanky names, and you drive all day and night to get there to find out they're not so swanky. That was especially true in my early days when I was playing the honky-tonks. It's not that I have anything against honky-tonks, but I always had a terrible time singing through all the cigarette smoke, which I had grown allergic to. For 5 years, with my burning throat and running eyes, I'd felt like I'd been singing in rooms full of ammonia. I remember the inside of the last honky-tonk I ever played. It was in 1982. After the show, my sinuses were killing me. I went to the motel and called Charlie that night. "I'm not playing another club," I said. "Don't book me in another nightclub." "Well, you just ruined your career," Charlie said. "I don't care," I said. "If I have to continue to sing in that smoke, I won't have a career because I won't have a voice." I had made my decision and I stood by it, and I honestly think my low tolerance of smoke was God's way of telling me to get out of the nightclubs and get onto the concert stages. Then on December the 12th, 1982, the Statler Brothers asked me to tour with them as their opening act. I know in my heart I wouldn't have been a part of their tour if I hadn't have put my foot down about singing in clubs. After the Statler Brothers, I opened for Conway Twitty, Ronnie Millsap, and Mickey Gilley. Besides literally and figuratively cleaning up our act, there were other important measures I had to take to really get a grip on my career. Red Stegall, who had been overseeing my career, convinced me that the time had come to bring in a professional. He was good enough to introduce me to Don Williams. Then Narvel approached Charlie and said he thought the band needed a leader. "Well, if you think we need one and you want to be one, then you're it," Charlie told Narvel. By then, Charlie and I knew Narvel very well and trusted him immensely. To other players, working for me was a job. For Narvel, it seemed to be a career. He was always coming up with ideas to improve the show or our travel conditions. That drive and enthusiasm are what made Narvel the best partner I ever had. My final step toward professionalism was getting myself an agent, but I almost lost my chance through no fault of my own. In March 1981, I was scheduled to perform at the Mabee Center at Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The William Morris Agency folks were going to be there to check me out. I was nervous about performing for the representatives. Two had flown in all the way from New York City just to watch me. On that all-important showcase, I appeared with Red Steagall, a local band, and George Jones. The 17,000-seat hall was filled to overflowing. George Jones made no secret of the 30-year battle he had with alcohol. He got the nickname No-Show Jones for all the dates he missed because he was too drunk to go on stage. When he arrived at the Mabee Center show, he started to drink. George's road manager went to Kathy B., who had booked the entertainment, and told her she'd better put Jones on stage while he was still in good shape. "I can't," Kathy said. "Reba's got folks here from William Morris waiting to watch her, and Jones is supposed to be the headliner. He's supposed to close the show." Jones suddenly announced he wouldn't go on at all if Kathy didn't find him a girlfriend. Now, Kathy is a wise old gal who's been around drinking men before. "Okay," she finally told George, "we'll compromise. You go on stage now and do your show, and when you come off, I'll have your girlfriend right here." So George went out, did his 45 minutes, and walked off stage directly to a bottle and to Kathy. "Where's my girl?" Jones demanded. "George," Kathy said, "that girl is a no-show." Well, George became angry and left. By then the lineup was hopelessly out of order, and a local band closed the show starring George Jones. But the next day, the Tulsa World published a review that said in part, "Reba McEntire is destined to become country music's next female superstar." By the way, Tom Carter, who was at the time a reviewer for the Tulsa World, wrote that review. No wonder I selected him as my co-writer. Not long after that, I was signed by William Morris, and even though Starstruck books my tours today, William Morris still handles my movie and literary contracts. And I'm happy to say that with the help of his wife, Nancy, George won his battle with the bottle. They are a wonderful, happy couple, and I love them both very much. In 1983, the band and I were sitting in a garage in DeSoto, Texas, but not by choice. The lug nuts of the front left tire of Old May, my bus, had loosened so much that we were afraid to go any further without having it checked. While the mechanic was wrestling with the tire, I called my manager, Don Williams. "Your song just went #1, he said. Man, I couldn't believe it. There in that greasy garage, I began to bawl. It finally happened. The one thing Mama and I had waited on for a lifetime, my first #1 song, was Can't Even Get the Blues. It had a storyline people could relate to, about a woman whose man had left her, again, and it doesn't bother her anymore. It was a strong woman's song. The song belonged to Loretta Lynn's publishing company, and when it went to #1, she sent me a beautiful silk flower arrangement that I cherish to this day. Later, she sent me a beautiful diamond necklace that was stolen from my suitcase a few years ago. Man, I hated to lose that necklace because it was from Loretta. I'm proud to say that I'm one of her friends, and she certainly is one of mine. She's a sweet, fun person to be around, and quite a character. In 1981, I'd gotten to be a part of a wonderful television special, Johnny Cash and the Ladies of Country Music, 20 of us, with Johnny being the only man. I was so honored to be chosen because I was really just getting started out then. I hadn't even